This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com and buildermasterclass.com. My name is Todd DeWalt. It's my job to help you, the construction business owner, eliminate chaos, maximize profits. Today I'm going to talk about bagpipes in Nebraska, which will lead me into talking about one of the biggest profit bleeds that is hammering most contractors' bottom lines, but they don't even see it. It never shows up on an invoice. You'll never see it on a bank statement, but it is absolutely hammering the bottom lines of thousands of construction businesses all over the country. I've seen it all over the country. And I'm going to talk about 8 ways that this hidden profit bleed is could be hammering your bottom line. I have a couple of resources I want to share with you before we get into that. In the last few years, premium outdoor spaces have become a must-have feature in high-end construction projects. Leading contractors say that Infratech heating systems are their brand of choice. Infratech heaters provide energy-efficient ambient warmth that allows homeowners to live outdoors during cooler months. Clients love them because they can enjoy 100 more nights a year outside, and contractors love the versatility, from a range of heater capacities to mounting options that can either seamlessly disappear or accentuate a high visual impact location. Infratech has made their products in the USA for over 60 years, so there are no lag times due to issues with the global supply chain, which is a big deal these days. Every product is supported with the most extensive 3-year warranty in the industry, and they offer incredible live technical support at every stage of the job. Infratech is specified at the world's most prestigious properties. Learn why and sign up for a free consultation at infratech-usa.com/leading edge. That's infratech-usa.com/leading edge. As a contractor, you manage a ton of jobs every day, and trying to keep up to speed and ensure work actually gets done takes up way too much time. And that's where Company Cam comes in. Every photo and video your guys take at a job is automatically organized by location and instantly synced from the field to wherever you are. Now, you'll know exactly what's happening across your company, be able to communicate more effectively, and cover your butt from future claims. Document your jobs, communicate with your crews, and protect your company, all with Company Cam, the only app every contractor needs. Get started today at companycam.com/CLE. All right, so there I was, Kearney, Nebraska, walking back to my hotel from the parking lot, and I heard this strange sound. I'd heard this sound before, but never in person and certainly never in a hotel parking lot. And as I got closer, I realized what the sound was, and I realized the source of the sound. I saw this guy walking back and forth in front of the Hampton Inn in Kearney, Nebraska, playing bagpipes, I think it was Amazing Grace on Bagpipes in Kearney, Nebraska. So the whole bagpipe thing was, that was a first time for me, but the reason I was in Nebraska was not a new reason. See, a CEO had brought me out to their company to spend 2 days with their team because for the first time in their company's history that had spanned more than almost 3 decades, they were losing money, and it was pretty alarming. They had a great team. They had plenty of work in backlog, but they were losing money, and they needed to solve it. So that's why I was in Nebraska, and the thing that I was there to solve is this hidden profit bleed that doesn't show up on a bank statement. You'll never get an invoice for it, but it could be hammering your bottom line, and it is opportunity cost. So I'm going to talk about 8 ways that opportunity cost could be hammering your bottom line in ways that can be measured, and some of the worst ways that opportunity cost shows up can't be measured. So the first one is specific to my Nebraska trip, and here's what was going on. As I dug into the situation with this company in Nebraska. They had plenty of work in backlog. They were a large commercial construction management firm, and had lots of work in backlog. But the problem was the projects were slipping. Projects that were supposed to start in August slipped to October, and then abatement got delayed, and then demolition got delayed, and these projects slipped into January, which is it's very different in January in Nebraska than it is in August. And there were projects that were slipping 3, 4, 6 months. And some people would say, oh, it's great. It's still in the backlog, right? No, the problem was they weren't turning their backlog into revenue. They weren't generating any gross profit from those projects to cover their overhead. All the staff was there. They weren't sending people home when projects got delayed. The meter just kept spinning. So here are a few ways that schedule delays create opportunity costs. So the first is projects are delayed on the front end. This is where a lot of projects, on the commercial side, in my experience, the vast majority of projects slide on the front end because of design delays, owner decision delays, etc. But projects get delayed and they slip. Sometimes they get delayed in the middle by the customer not making selections, or maybe it's an owner-furnished item that's delayed, or the architect is slow, the engineer is slow, but these projects are delayed at no fault of yours as the contractor, the builder. Another way schedule delays show up is overruns on the end, projects that you just can't get away from. The nightmare punch list, the never-ending closeout, the, hey, while you're here, can you take care of this for us list. That can hammer you with opportunity costs because you're not able to get to the next project. You're not taking your revenue-producing resources onto the next project. Maybe you're covering your cost. Maybe you're getting paid time and materials for supervision, let's say. But if you're not getting to the next project, you're not turning that backlog into revenue, which creates a gross profit to cover your overhead and generate net profit. Okay? Here's what I would tell you. You need to fall out of love with your backlog. Let me say that again. You need to fall out of love with your backlog. You need to attack your backlog and aggressively convert your backlog into revenue. But too many people are in love with their backlog. Okay? About 10 or 15 years ago, I learned this lesson. I was talking to a guy named Randy Hansborough, and we were actually in a business development role at the time, and he had been in the business a lot longer than I had, and we were talking about there was some delay, some delay on a project, and I said, yeah, well, they still have the work in backlog, right? And Randy said, yeah, but you can't get that day back. You still have the revenue, you still have the revenue in backlog, but you can never get that day back. A day with no production means a day with no revenue, and you can't get that day back. So what happens when there are scheduled delays on the front end or in the middle of a project or overruns on the end, that revenue slips to the next month or the next year. And meanwhile, your overhead meter is still running. You're still racking up the costs of salaried employees, back office employees, supervision, rent, insurance, all of these overhead costs that you're still racking up, and it's an absolute killer. So your job as a contractor is to turn days into dollars at the optimum rate. So your job is to turn days into dollars at the optimum rate. There is an opportunity cost. There's an opportunity cost for every day that you're not generating your optimum amount of revenue. Okay, I'll talk about that some more. So that's schedule delays. The second way opportunity cost shows up is with your capacity or your bandwidth. Your capacity or your bandwidth. Here's what this means. You could be doing more projects if you grow your team. But you can't handle it, maybe because of the chaos, because of the bottlenecks, because of the profit bleeds in your business, maybe because of you. Maybe you're the lid on your organization. Maybe you're a micromanager and you have to have your fingers in every pie, and you can't grow your team because of you. Maybe that's it. Maybe you're not willing to take on more projects or more customers. Maybe you're afraid of what might happen. Maybe you're afraid of hiring more people because you're concerned about what happens if we run out of work and I have to lay those people off. That's a very common fear. But rest assured, you are being hit with this phantom opportunity cost because you could have a bigger team. You could have more capacity, but you're limited for some reason. You may be wondering, well, what if you could hire a project manager? What if you could hire a superintendent? What if you could hire a design coordinator or an estimator or an operations manager or maybe a CEO to run the whole business for you? How much more could your company accomplish? How much more profit could you generate if you could just increase your bandwidth or increase your capacity? So this is why it's phantom. You can't see it because you're comparing it against some potential scenario, but you are dealing with it. So that's a little bit abstract. This one's a little bit easier to wrap your arms around, and that's idle equipment and tools. If you have idle equipment, idle tools, trucks sitting around, not generating revenue, you're not billing for them, then you're getting hit with opportunity cost. Let's say you have a skid steer sitting outside your shop and you use it on average 3 days a week, right? That seems pretty good utilization. So there's two ways to calculate your opportunity cost associated with this idle equipment. You've got the skid steer that's available for 2 days a week. One of two ways to look at this. Number one, let's say you were to rent that skid steer to somebody. The average rental rate is $300 a day. You have 2 days of idle time. That's $600 a week. At 50 weeks a year, that's $30,000 a year in opportunity cost from that idle equipment. You could be generating $30,000 just by renting that skid steer. The other way to look at it is, hey, what if we were to use that machine to generate revenue for the business? Let's put an operator on it. And maybe you could generate $50 an hour of profit, gross profit, after you pay for your operator labor. Let's say you're generating $50 an hour profit. That's $400 a day. If 2 days, that's $800 a week. That's $40,000 of profit per year. So that's how you can calculate opportunity cost with idle equipment and tools. Here's the next one. On the financial side, there are a couple of not so intuitive ways that opportunity cost shows up, right? So here's a big one. This is missing out on future wealth, we'll call it. Missing out on future wealth, all right? So according to the internet, the average stock market return for the last 30 years on the S&P is 8.29% when adjusted for inflation, okay? Let's just use that as an example. So here's the future wealth that you could be missing out on, all right? Let's say you have, this is a very common situation when I talk to builders and contractors and general contractors and remodelers. I ask them, let's talk about your profit bleeds. How much are you bleeding out from unsolicited charity or change order work you're not getting paid for, or lost productivity, wasted materials, schedule overruns, schedule delays? And it's not unusual for a small business doing $1.5 to $2 million to have $8,000 a month of profit bleed, okay? Larger companies, I've spoken with companies that are bleeding $50 to $60 to $75,000 a month in profit bleeds from those things. But let's look at a a conservative example, $8,000 in profit bleeds a month. That's $2,000 of change order work that never gets billed for, $2,000 of material waste, $2,000 of lost productivity, $2,000 due to schedule overruns, right? Or some combination thereof. That's $96,000 a year of profit bleed. Now, this is when it gets interesting. What would it look like if we invested that, let's say it's $100,000 in profit bleeds, okay? Let's say in 2022, you captured $100,000 of profit bleed, and then you invested that, and you put it away, and you invested it. It got 8.29% interest, compounded annually. That's just the average over the past 30 years. You got an average return on investment. In 20 years, what do you think that $100,000 is worth? It's worth $470,000. $100,000. You capture that profit bleed for 1 year. You put it in there, leave it alone for 20 years. It's worth $472,000. Now, let's take it one step further. Let's assume you take next year's $100,000 of profit bleeds. You capture it, you invest it, but then you also invest an additional $50,000 per year. Just $50,000 for the next 20 years. At the end of 20 years, your investment would be worth $2.8 million. This is why there's an opportunity cost on missing out on future wealth. Profit bleeds are causing you to miss out on future wealth. Investing $100,000 turns into $472,000 in 20 years. This is your retirement, right? So profit bleeds lead to an opportunity cost where you're missing out on future wealth. A few other ways: you could be paying too much for financing. If you're using your local bank to factor receivables or finance your receivables, you may be paying too much. And if you need some help with that, if you're interested in financing your receivables, or you're looking for a better solution for factoring or financing your receivables, send me an email. I have a couple of companies that I've spoken with, and they could be able to help you out. Send me an email, todd@constructionleadingedge.com. So you could be paying too much for financing. You could be paying too much in taxes and not even knowing it. Maybe you need to hire a CFO. You need to hire a CPA. Hire a tax professional to help you minimize your taxes. Or maybe you're not maximizing your return on your investments. Maybe you have a nice investment portfolio, but you're too busy to look at it. You're too busy to redistribute and reallocate things because of all the chaos in your business. That's how opportunity costs can show up on the financial side. Area number 5 is lost productivity. If you have hourly employees, or you're working with, maybe you subcontract everything to trade partners, well, they probably have hourly employees. And at some point, lost productivity is hitting somebody. Productivity is pretty bad across the industry based on what the experts say, and I call them experts loosely, but also based on my own personal experience. And lost productivity on the job site has a huge opportunity cost. And if you think about it, it also contributes to schedule delays, which has another layer of opportunity cost. Here's how this opportunity cost from lost productivity works. Let's say your company, let's take a fictitious company, it has the capacity to generate $10,000 per day in revenue, right? $10,000 per day in revenue, that's the capacity. When they're hitting on all cylinders, productivity is optimum, they can generate $10,000 per day in revenue, say 20 working days per month, $200,000 per month, all right? But in reality, due to lost time, missing information, poor productivity, waiting on materials, rework, whatever the case is, they only do $8,000 per day on average. They could do 10, but they're only doing 8. That delta between their optimum rate and their actual is $2,000 per day. You multiply that times 200 days. That's $400,000 in revenue that they're not generating. And conservatively, let's say that's a 10% net profit. It's actually going to be higher than that because the overhead cost is fixed. But at, let's say, $400,000 at 10% net profit, that's $40,000 in net profit that's being lost per year because of lost productivity. Not to mention the direct cost of labor, but just they're not generating that profit. Let me pause for a moment and tell you about a program that I created about a year and a half ago to help solve a lot of these problems. So one of the biggest challenges that construction business owners face that I hear all the time is I'm lonely, right? If people are being honest, they'll say, if you're being honest, maybe you'll say, you know what? I don't have anybody to talk to. The only people around me who understand what I'm going through are probably my competitors, and I can't talk to them. I can't talk to them because it would be giving away trade secrets. Maybe you've been figuring this thing out on your own for a long time. Maybe you've never worked in another company, or if you have, it was a long time ago, and you've never done this before. You've never run a construction business before. And maybe you're thinking, hey, if somebody else has figured out a better way to solve a problem I'm dealing with, I would rather not have to reinvent the wheel. Well, if you're interested in that, or if any of that sounds familiar, you may be interested in the Builder Mastermind group. It's a small group. You'll be placed in a small group of other construction business owners doing the same type of work, using the same software as you, and they're not your competitors, and you can share ideas, avoid costly mistakes, build relationships, and get better together. If you're interested in that, head over to buildermastermindgroup.com. That's buildermastermindgroup.com. Now, let's get back to opportunity cost. The number 6 way that opportunity cost you could be taking it in the shorts, is the way you're pricing your work. Pricing your work. A year or two ago, I talked to a builder in the Northeast who told me about how in previous years they were charging like a 10% fee, cost plus builder, building homes, 10% fee. And their bookkeeper CPA said, this is not working. The math doesn't work out. You need to be charging at least 18%. Well, the builder's response was a family-owned business. Everybody said, there's no way they'll pay that much. Customers will never pay 18%. We'll go out of business if we try that. Well, they really had no choice. They were going to go out of business if they continued charging 10%. So they raised their prices. They proposed projects to new customers, and the customers said absolutely nothing. They just paid it. And all of those obstacles, all of the resistance and garbage was in their head. Their customers were glad to pay that. They didn't know what everybody else was paying for. So this particular builder was dealing with an opportunity cost for years by underpricing their work. About 3 years ago, I started working with a commercial construction management business owner in my coaching program. And on our very first call, he told me about a situation that he was really struggling with. And he would do pre-construction and permitting work and maybe even some design work on the very early phases of projects. And then he would do it on a time and materials basis. And every time he submitted an invoice to a client, they haggled and complained and questioned about the number of hours people spent on each activity. And it was just driving him crazy, to the point where he didn't even want to do that work anymore. Well, I said, let's do this. The next time somebody asks you to do pre-construction or development work, give them a lump sum proposal. So he did that, and he told me on the very next call, he said, you're not going to believe this. I didn't believe it, but this client asked me to do this work for them. Normally, I would have charged about $40,000 for it. Time and materials, we would have argued and negotiated and haggled every time I sent an invoice through. But I took your advice and I gave them a lump sum proposal for over $100,000, and I couldn't believe it, but the customer just signed off on it. No questions asked. So he was dealing with an opportunity cost because he just wasn't pricing the work like he could have been. Free estimates have a huge opportunity cost, all right? Using the pre-construction services agreement will revolutionize your business if you are a builder, a remodeler, or a small general contractor, period. Okay? You can listen to other episodes to hear other people talk about how it's revolutionized their business. If this piques your interest, this whole idea of getting paid for estimates and eliminating the practice of free estimates, then go to buildermasterclass.com/script. And there's a free video there. You'll learn 3 questions you can ask on your next appointment to get them to see why they should pay you. Okay, go to buildermasterclass.com/script. So forget about getting paid for estimates, all right? Just forget about the money you actually collect. Think about the typical home builder. I work with a lot of custom home builders, and it's not unusual for them to spend 30 hours, 40 hours, but let's say 30 hours per estimate, and a lot of them don't go anywhere. Maybe their hit rate, even a really good closing percentage, is 50%. But think about this. Let's say that's you. Let's say you're wasting 30 hours a month on estimates that never go anywhere, unqualified leads. What would you do if you had 30 hours a month back? What if you could convert that time that was being wasted on a free estimate into something else? Forget about getting paid, but what would you spend that 30 hours a month on? That's almost a day a week. Think about the activity you would spend that on. Maybe finding trade partners, training your people, hiring people, recruiting, putting systems in place, selling to qualified customers. But how much profit could that generate for you if you could convert just 30 hours a month from wasted time into profitable time? How much profit could that generate for you in a year? That's the opportunity cost of free estimates. Okay? Here's the deal. You may be surprised to find out that people will be glad to pay you more when you ask for it. They don't know how much you sold the last deal for. They don't know how many free estimates you've given away. You're the only one who knows that. And most of the obstacles to increasing your pricing, most of the obstacles to you getting paid what you're worth are between your ears. So you may be surprised to find out that people will be glad to pay you when you ask for it. All right, number 7. These last 2 are a little bit difficult to quantify. You probably can't put dollar signs on them, but these last 2, number 7 and 8, are probably the most important. So number 7 is procrastination and wasted time. All right, I'm not talking about minor stuff like filing your taxes or getting back to clients. I'm talking about accomplishing your purpose, right? I believe everybody has a purpose. There's a reason. There's a calling. You're here for a reason. All right, you have this potential, and your job while you're on this earth is to convert your potential into reality. So I like this concept of potential. And I believe that you have a certain amount of potential, which is, according to physics, it's defined as, quote, the capacity to become or develop into something in the future, right? So your potential is the capacity you have to develop into something in the future. In physics, we learn about potential energy. which is the ability to do work or cause change. But doing work and causing change requires converting that potential energy into kinetic energy, which happens when something starts moving. Imagine a bowling ball at the top of a ramp. It has lots of potential energy at the top, but it's not doing anything until it starts to move. There's a quote by a guy named John Acuff, and here's what he said. He wrote this a few years ago. May we not refuse the gifts we've been given. May we never chase the shiny in place of the holy, the trend instead of the truth, the immediate instead of the eternal. Arrive empty to the grave, having given all you were given, stewarded all you were tasked with, give the grave only bones. Arrive empty to the grave, having given all you were given, stewarded all you were tasked with, give the grave only bones. And one of my favorite authors, Wayne Dyer, said, don't die with your music still in you. There are probably thousands of people who've died with their music still in them. They had this capacity, they had this potential inside them, but because of fear or procrastination or whatever, they died with their music still in them. So there's a huge opportunity cost from procrastination and wasting time and not turning your potential into reality. If you think about, here's my question for you. If you think about where you're at, think about if there was a gauge, like a tachometer on your truck that shows how you're doing, like how much are you idling at your capacity? Are you redlining, doing as much as possible? Where are you? What does your potential-ometer look like? And remember, you don't want to die with your music still in you. You have this capacity, so don't get hit with the opportunity cost of not converting your potential into reality. And the final form of opportunity cost could be the most devastating and the most painful, even though you probably can't put a dollar figure to it. In the early 1940s, Harvard Medical School began a study. Information was gathered about a group of a few hundred men. They gathered information about their mental and their physical health, their career enjoyment, all the way through their retirement experience, marital quality. And the goal of this really long study, maybe the longest running medical study ever, was to identify the predictors of healthy aging. This study continued until around 2012 when their results were published, and I think the study may still be going on. And here's what they found out after studying men for over 70 years. First of all, financial success depends on the warmth of relationships, not on intelligence. Okay? Let me say that again. Financial success depends on warmth of relationships and not on intelligence. Those who scored highest on measurements of warm relationships earned an average of $141,000 a year more at their peak salaries. The second big takeaway, the finding was that social connections are good for us and loneliness kills. It turns out people who are more socially connected to family, to friends, to the community are happier. They're physically healthier, and they live longer than people who are less connected. People who are more isolated than they want to be from others find that they're less happy. Their health declines earlier in midlife, their brain functioning declines sooner, and they live shorter lives than people who are not lonely. This final form of opportunity cost is relationship opportunity costs. This type of opportunity cost can't be measured, and it usually hurts the worst because it shows up in a word as regret. Back in 2014, my grandfather passed away, and I didn't spend as much time with him in his final days as I should have. And I can remember one specific instance, in his final days, it was Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, and I visited him in the hospital, and he was laying in bed, one of the last times that I saw him when he was really lucid, and he looked at me and he said, "Are you going to come back and see me tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, let's see, it was Christmas." And that was the last time that I saw him. And now I deal with that regret. And I actually went through his house after he passed away, and I found this wooden boot puller that he kept outside his door. He was a farmer for his entire life. And he had this wooden boot puller that he made from a piece of rough cut oak. He cut it with a chainsaw, put it together with a couple of nails, didn't use a measuring tape, didn't use a square, eyeballed it. And I keep it in my office to remind me of a couple of things. One, to keep solutions really simple, like that boot puller, but also spend time with the people who matter while you can. I'm talking about your kids. Spend time with your spouse. Spend time with your parents, your grandparents, if they're still around. Spend time with your friends. Spend time developing relationships with people on your team. Spend time with people in the community, in your church. When you minimize relationship opportunity cost, when you are dealing with that regret, right? So don't live with the regret that you should have spent more time on a relationship, right? So minimize relationship opportunity cost, and you'll minimize regret. That's really the most important thing, because that's really all that matters. The relationships are the things that really matter. And it's good for you if you want to live longer, if you want to be happier, if you want to make more money. The one thing you should be focused on, according to this Harvard Medical School study, is the warmth of relationships that you have. So, to recap, here's a few ways that opportunity cost rears its ugly head. It could be hammering your bottom line. It could be hammering your life, quite frankly. Schedule delays, capacity or bandwidth, idle equipment and tools, financial opportunity cost, lost productivity on the job site, pricing your work, procrastination and wasted time. And then probably the worst of all would be relationship opportunity cost. So where do we go from here? How do you minimize opportunity cost? How do you minimize this? Where do you start? Maybe that you're thinking, I'm getting hammered by opportunity cost all over the place here. Where do I start? What I found is that the lead domino is to systematize your business, okay? Think about this. When you reduce schedule delays, right? You put systems in place, systems and processes so that your business runs more like a well-oiled machine, right? When you put systems in place, you'll reduce schedule delays. You will make your team more productive. You'll reduce profit bleeds, and then that will cause your business to generate more profit. This will give you more money to invest for the future. It will also reduce the chaos, which will allow you to spend more time with the people you started this business for in the first place, right? If you're like most people, well, let me just ask you this. Why did you start this business? If you own a business, why are you doing what you're doing? Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for your family? Think about it. Isn't it a shame that to work so hard for this business or at a job that's taking you away from the people that matter the most, right? So when you put systems in place, you eliminate a lot of that chaos. You have more money to invest, and you reduce that. You actually generate more wealth, and most importantly, you'll have more time to spend with the people you started this business for in the first place. So here's my challenge to you. Number one, this is 3 steps, okay? Number one, pick one area of opportunity cost that you want to attack. Where can you get some quick wins? Lost productivity? Is it idle equipment? Schedule delays? Is it pricing your work? Maybe charging for estimates is a good place to start. But number one, pick one area of opportunity cost you want to attack. Number two, get to the root cause of that opportunity cost. Ask yourself, why is this happening? Use the 5 whys method. And if you're not sure what that is, look it up. 5 whys, W-H-Y. Step 3, once you have the root cause, then start developing a simple system that will solve that root cause. 3 steps. Pick an area of opportunity cost you want to attack, get to the root cause, start developing a simple system to solve that root cause. If you need some help, 2 things I'll offer. Number 1, join a builder mastermind group. You can avoid costly mistakes by sharing ideas with a group of like-minded construction business owners. We meet monthly. We have a specific topic that we focus on each month, and you will build relationships. You'll solve problems. Imagine what it would be like to have 60 or 70 other people doing the same type of work as you that you can reach out to for answers. Better yet, imagine having 6 or 8 people who know your business, and they're like a board of directors, and they know you and they know your business that you can reach out to and bounce ideas off and get help when you need it. So if that sounds interesting, go to buildermastermindgroup.com. If you want to talk about working with me specifically in my coaching program on how to systematize your business, then go to constructionleadingedge.com and click the button that says schedule a free strategy call with Todd. That's constructionleadingedge.com. Click the button that says schedule a free strategy call with me if you own a construction business and you want to talk about working with me in my coaching program. That's it for now. Thanks so much for the ratings and the reviews. If you could leave a rating and or a review, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Remember, with Company Cam, there's no more second guessing about what's getting done or pestering your crews to send you pictures. Every photo and video your guys take at a job is automatically organized by location and instantly synced from the field to wherever you are. Now you'll know exactly what's happening across your company. Get started today at companycam.com/CLE. As I was saying earlier, Infratech heaters are a top choice for contractors building outdoor spaces. They're easy to spec and install during construction or renovation. Clients love them because they have a great heat output, they look beautiful, and they're easy to operate. All of their products and controls are American-made and include exclusive options like smart home integration and hands-free voice activation. For a free consultation, visit infratech-usa.com/leading edge.